The Galactic Council had ruled the stars for 12,000 years. 7 ancient races sat in the Great Chamber on the station called Eternity, and their word was law across 10,000 worlds. They had crushed rebellions, ended civilizations, and shaped the galaxy according to their will. No species had ever successfully defied them. Ambassador Zethkara of the Velari Dominion stood before the massive holographic display that filled the center of the chamber. Her silver scales reflected the blue light of a small planet rotating slowly in the projection. Earth, the humans called it. A world of water and green land, home to a species that had only discovered faster than light travel 2 centuries ago. The humans have expanded rapidly, Zethkara said to her fellow council members. They now control 9 colony worlds and show no signs of slowing their growth. It is time they learned their place in the galactic order. High Arbiter Mulvin, the eldest member of the council, shifted his crystalline body forward. He was ancient beyond measure, and his form caught light in ways that seemed impossible. When he spoke, his voice resonated through the chamber like wind through glass. Send the standard tribute demand. 30% of their food production, 20% of their mineral output, and 1 million of their young each cycle for the labor pools. If they comply, they may continue to exist. If they refuse, we will make an example of them. The other council members voiced their agreement. Warlord Crix of the Tharn Collective, a massive creature covered in armored plates, laughed at the image of Earth. Such a small world, he said. Such a fragile species. They will learn to kneel, or they will learn to die. The message was prepared and sent across the vast emptiness of space. It traveled at speeds beyond light, carrying the Council's demands to a species they considered little more than insects. 3 days later, the transmission reached Earth. President Daniel Cole sat in the secure conference room beneath the Terran Assembly Building. He was 63 years old, with gray hair and eyes that had seen humanity through its darkest hours. 20 years ago, he had been a young officer during the Border War, when humanity first encountered hostile alien life. He had watched friends die in the void. He had given orders that sent thousands to their deaths, and he had survived. Around him sat the most powerful people in human civilization. Secretary of Defense Maria Santos, a woman in her 50s who had rebuilt the military from the ground up. Admiral William Grant, commander of the entire Terran Defense Fleet, whose scarred face told stories of battles won and lost. Director Samuel Harris of Terran Intelligence, who knew secrets that could topple governments. And Dr. Lisa Morgan, chief scientist of humanity's most classified research programs. Maria Santos read the Council's demands aloud. Her voice remained steady, but her hands shook slightly as she held the document. They want our food, she said when she finished. They want our resources. And they want 1 million of our people each year to serve as slaves in their labor camps. The room fell silent. Admiral Grant was the first to speak. Our fleet consists of 47 warships. According to our intelligence, the Council commands over 6,000 vessels, each one more advanced than anything we possess. If we refuse their demands, they will destroy us. President Cole asked quietly. Then we survive, Grant replied. As servants, as slaves. But we survive. Daniel Cole stood and walked to the window. The city stretched out below him, millions of people going about their daily lives. Children playing in parks. Families sharing meals. Young couples dreaming of futures they believed were secure. How many species have accepted these terms? He asked. Director Harris consulted his files. At least 47 that we know of. They provide tribute to the Council and receive protection in return. Their populations are stable, but they have no freedom. Their technology is limited by Council decree. Their people serve in mines and factories across Council space. Harris hesitated. The Vexari refused 60 years ago. Their homeworld was bombarded from orbit until the surface turned to glass. The survivors were scattered across labor camps. The Corinth refused 300 years ago. They no longer exist as a species. President Cole turned back to face his advisors. Something hard had entered his eyes. Something that those who had served with him in the border war recognized immediately. So our choices are slavery or extinction. Those are the choices the Council offers. Yes, Maria Santos said. Then we need to create a third option. Admiral Grant leaned forward. Sir, with respect, what third option? We cannot fight them. We cannot hide from them. We cannot run far enough to escape them. We cannot fight them conventionally, President Cole corrected. We cannot hide using current technology. We cannot run using methods they understand. He looked at Dr. Lisa Morgan, who had remained silent throughout the meeting. Doctor, tell them about Project Blackout. Lisa Morgan was 43 years old, but the work she had done over the past decade had aged her beyond her years. She stood and activated a holographic display of her own. For the past 15 years, we have been studying the fundamental forces that allow faster-than-light travel to function. Not just our technology, but the underlying physics that all galactic civilizations rely upon. She paused. We believe we have found a way to disrupt those forces on a massive scale. The room went very still. What exactly are you saying? Admiral Grant asked. I am saying that we can create a field that prevents any ship from entering or leaving faster-than-light travel within its radius. We can trap an entire fleet in normal space, unable to escape, unable to call for help, unable to do anything except fight on our terms. Maria Santos stared at her. You can strand the Council fleet in our solar system. Yes, but there is more. Lisa Morgan changed the display to show thousands of small satellites scattered throughout the Sol system. We have been preparing for this moment for 2 decades. These satellites are already in position. They have been hidden in asteroid fields, disguised as debris, buried in the surfaces of moons. When we activate them, nothing with a faster-than-light drive will function within 2 light-years of Earth. President Cole watched his advisors process this information. He saw hope fighting with fear on their faces. There is one problem, Lisa Morgan continued. Once we activate the field, it affects everyone, including us. We will be trapped with them. There will be no retreat, no escape, no second chances. If our plan fails, humanity dies in that trap alongside the Council fleet. The President nodded slowly. How long do we have before we must respond to the Council? 30 standard days, Maria Santos replied. Daniel Cole looked at each person in the room. Then we have 30 days to prepare for the most important battle in human history. 30 days to save our species or doom it forever. He sat back down at the head of the table. Let us begin. The days passed quickly, and humanity worked in secret, in the bunker beneath the Rocky Mountains. Dr. Lisa Morgan slept only when her body refused to function without rest. Her team of scientists checked and rechecked every calculation, every connection, every satellite in the network that would determine humanity's fate. One mistake could mean the difference between victory and extinction. The power requirements are enormous, her assistant Kevin Park told her on the 15th day. He was young, barely 30, but brilliant in ways that Lisa had rarely seen. If even one of the relay stations fails during activation, the field could collapse. We would lose everything. Lisa stared at the holographic map showing the positions of their hidden satellites. 2,000 devices spread across the solar system, each one carrying technology that no other species in the galaxy possessed. Technology that humanity had developed in secret, while the Council believed them to be primitive newcomers, unworthy of attention. Then we make sure none of them fail, she said. Run the diagnostics again, and again after that. We do not stop until I am certain. Kevin nodded and returned to his work. Around them, dozens of scientists moved through the underground facility, each one carrying the weight of human survival on their shoulders, far above the bunker. Across the 9 worlds that humanity called home, other preparations were underway. On the colony world of New Providence, Governor Angela Porter faced an impossible task. She had to evacuate 3 million people without telling them why. The Council had spies everywhere, and any hint that humanity was preparing for war would destroy the element of surprise that was their only advantage. We are conducting emergency drills, she announced to her population. All citizens will be temporarily relocated to secure shelters while our defense systems undergo testing. This is a precautionary measure. There is no cause for alarm, The lies tasted bitter in her mouth, but she told them anyway. She watched families pack their belongings in board transport ships, believing they would return to their homes in a few days. She knew that many of them might never see those homes again. Her assistant, a young man named Carlos Rivera, found her alone in her office late one night. "Governor, the evacuation is on schedule. 70% of the civilian population has been moved to the bunker systems." Angela did not turn from the window. Outside, the twin moons of New Providence hung in a purple sky. She had come to this world as a young woman, full of dreams about LDing something new. Now she wondered if any of it would survive. "My mother and 2 sisters. They were on the first transport to the shelters." Good. She finally turned to face him. "Whatever happens in the coming weeks, I want you to know that I am proud of what we've built here. This colony, these people, this life we created from nothing. The Council thinks we are weak because we are young. They do not understand that everything we have, we earned through struggle. We know how to survive." Carlos nodded, though his eyes held the same fear that Angela felt in her heart. "Yes, Governor." Meanwhile, Admiral William Grant commanded the Terran Defense Fleet from the bridge of his flagship, the Endurance. 47 warships hung in formation near Earth, all of them knowing that they would soon face an enemy fleet more than 100 times their size. "I will not lie to you," Grant told his captains through the secure communication network. "Many of us will not survive the coming battle. The Council will send everything they have, and we will be outgunned and outmatched in every conventional sense." He paused, letting his words settle over the men and women who would lead humanity's defense. "But we are not fighting a conventional war. We are fighting a war of deception, of traps, of making the enemy believe one thing while we prepare another. Every move they expect, we will counter. Every advantage they think they have, we will take away. And when the moment comes, when they realize too late that they have walked into our trap, we will show them what humanity is capable of." Captain Nathan Perry of the destroyer Swift stood at attention in his own command center. Watching the Admiral's transmission, he was 38 years old and had served in the fleet for 15 years. He had never faced odds like these. "Sir," he said when the briefing ended, "what are our actual chances?" Admiral Grant's face softened slightly. "Honestly, I do not know. Dr. Morgan's technology has never been tested at this scale. Our battle plans depend on the Council behaving exactly as we predict. One mistake, one unexpected move, and everything falls apart."
Then why are we doing that?
"Why not accept the tribute demands and survive?" The Admiral was quiet for a long moment. "Because survival is not the same as living, Captain. I have seen what happens to species that accept the Council's terms. They exist, but they are hollow. Their spirits are broken. Their futures belong to someone else." He straightened in his chair. "I would rather die fighting for a chance at freedom than live as a slave." On Earth, President Daniel Cole spent his days meeting with world leaders, military commanders, and scientists. He spent his nights alone in his office, reading reports and making decisions that would affect billions of lives. His wife, Catherine, found him there on the 25th day, staring at a photograph on his desk. "You should sleep," she said softly. Daniel did not look up. "I keep thinking about all the things I should have done differently. We should have prepared sooner. Built more ships. Developed better weapons." Catherine sat beside him and took his hand. "You did everything you could with the time you had. No one could have done more. It might not be enough." "It might not," she agreed. "But you gave humanity a chance. That is more than anyone else could offer." He finally looked at her, his eyes red with exhaustion and worry. "If we fail, everything ends. Our children, our grandchildren, our entire species. Gone, and do not fail." She squeezed his hand. "You've carried us this far. Carry us a little further." On the 28th day, Dr. Lisa Morgan made her final report. "The network is ready," she told the assembled leadership. "All satellites are functioning within acceptable parameters. The field generators are charged and waiting. When you give the order, Mr. President, we can activate within 60 seconds. President Cole looked around the room at the people who had worked so hard to reach this moment. Maria Santos, who had coordinated the military preparations. Admiral Grant, who would lead the fleet into battle. Samuel Harris, whose intelligence networks had kept their plans secret. Lisa Morgan, whose genius had made everything possible. "Then we are ready," he said. 2 days from now, the Council's deadline expires. 2 days from now, we send our response. What will we tell them? Maria asked. The President thought of all the species the Council had crushed, all the worlds they had burned, all the people they had enslaved. He thought of his children and grandchildren, and the future they deserved. We tell them the truth, he said. We tell them to come and take it on the 30th day. The Galactic Council waited for humanity's answer. Ambassador Zethkara stood in the communication center of Station Eternity, her silver scales catching the dim light as she watched the countdown timer approach 0. Around her, technicians from a dozen different species monitored the transmission channels, ready to receive what everyone assumed would be a surrender. They have no choice, Warlord Crick said from his position behind her. His massive body barely fit in the room, and his presence made the smaller species nervous. Every primitive species reaches this moment. They calculate the odds, recognize their weakness, and submit. The humans will be no different. Kara was not so certain. She had studied the humans more carefully than her colleagues, reading reports from observers who had watched Earth for decades. Something about this species troubled her. They had survived disasters that should have destroyed them. They had unified after centuries of fighting each other. They had expanded across 9 worlds in just 200 years, a rate of growth that made older species uncomfortable. The humans are different, she said quietly. Crix laughed, a sound like stones grinding together. Different how? They are young, weak, and alone. They have no allies, no advanced technology, no experience fighting a galactic war. They are children facing giants. The timer reached 0. A single transmission arrived from Earth. Zethkara opened the message and read it aloud. For words that would change the galaxy forever, come and take it. For a moment, silence filled the room. Then Crix roared with fury, his armored fists smashing into the nearest console and sending sparks flying across the floor. Insolence! Arrogance! They dare to challenge the Council. The news spread quickly through Station Eternity. Within hours, the Council chamber was filled with representatives from all 7 elder races, their voices raised in anger and disbelief. High Arbiter Mulvin called for silence, his crystalline form pulsing with light that demanded attention. This defiance cannot stand. We will send the largest fleet assembled in 3,000 years. We will crush them so completely that no species will ever dare refuse tribute again. Agreed, said Zethkara, though doubt still gnawed at her thoughts. But we should proceed with caution. Send scouts first. Learn the disposition of their forces before committing our full strength. Warlord Crix stepped forward, towering over the other council members. Caution is for the weak. These humans have insulted us before the entire galaxy. Every subject race is watching to see how we respond. If we show hesitation, we show weakness. And weakness invites rebellion. The council debated for hours, but the outcome was never in doubt. Pride demanded overwhelming force. Honor required complete destruction. By the end of the session, orders had been issued for 6,000 warships to converge on the Sol system, in a corner of the chamber. Observer Talenth, of the Quiet Ones, watched the proceedings without speaking. Talent's species rarely involved themselves in council matters, preferring to observe and record rather than act. But something about this situation drew their attention in ways they could not explain. You seem troubled, Zethkara said. Approaching the observer after the session ended, Talon's pale form shifted like smoke in a gentle wind. We have watched the humans since their first radio signals left their planet. We have studied them with great interest. What have you learned? That they are not like other species the Council has conquered. They do not think in terms of acceptable losses or strategic retreat. When they fight with everything they have. They would rather destroy themselves than submit to an enemy. Zethkara frowned. That is irrational. Perhaps Or perhaps it is a strength that the Council has never encountered. Talenth paused, their form flickering with what might have been uncertainty. Be careful, Ambassador. The humans have had 30 days to prepare for this moment. They knew what their answer would cost them. Ask yourself, why would they choose extinction over submission? Unless they do not believe they will be destroyed. The words stayed with Zethkara as she returned to her quarters. She pulled up every file she could find on human history, searching for something that would explain their confidence. She found a species that had survived ice ages and plagues. A species that had split the atom and walked on their moon. A species that had fought 2 global wars that killed hundreds of millions, yet somehow found the strength to rebuild and reach for the stars. What are you? She whispered to the images on her screen. What do you know that we do not? On Earth, President Daniel Cole watched the Council's response arrive. Intelligence reports confirmed that 6,000 warships were being assembled. The largest military force the galaxy had seen in millennia. They took the bait, Admiral Grant said with grim satisfaction. They are sending everything, just as we predicted. They had to, Maria Santos replied. Their entire system of control, depends on fear. If they showed any restraint, other species might start to wonder if the Council is as powerful as they claim. President Cole studied the tactical display showing the estimated arrival time of the enemy fleet. How long do we have? 12 days at maximum fleet speed. They will arrive together in one overwhelming wave. And our preparations? Complete. The satellite network is active and hidden. The drone swarms are positioned throughout the asteroid belt. The minefield is armed and waiting. Admiral Grant allowed himself a small smile. We are as ready as we will ever be. The President nodded slowly. Then we wait. And we pray that Dr. Morgan's theories hold true when tested against 6,000 warships. In her bunker, Lisa Morgan ran the same simulation for the 1,000th time. The mathematics were beautiful in their complexity. Elegant equations that described how fundamental forces could be disrupted across vast distances. On paper, everything worked perfectly. In reality, she had never tested the system at full power against a single ship, let alone an entire fleet. You're doing it again, Kevin Park said. Finding her staring at her screens in the middle of the night? Doing what? Second-guessing yourself. You have checked those calculations 1,000 times. They are correct. Lisa rubbed her eyes, exhaustion making her voice rough. I keep thinking about what happens if I am wrong. Billions of people are counting on technology that only exists because I convinced the government it would work. If I made a mistake, if I missed something in the equations, humanity dies because of me. Kevin sat down beside her. And if you are right, humanity lives because of you. The weight is the same either way. All you can do is trust your work and hope for the best. She looked at him, this young scientist who had worked by her side for years. Hope seems like a thin shield against 6,000 warships. It is the only shield we have. He stood and offered her a tired smile. Get some sleep, Doctor. The universe will still be there in the morning. Lisa watched him leave, then turned back to her screens. The countdown timer showed 11 days until the Council fleet arrived. 11 days until she learned whether her life's work would save humanity or destroy it. She closed her eyes and waited for a sleep that would not come. The Council fleet emerged from faster-than-light travel at the edge of the Sol system like a swarm of metal insects blotting out the stars. 6,000 warships arranged in perfect formation, their weapons charged and ready, their crews eager for the easy victory they had been promised. Commander Vethener stood on the bridge of his dreadnought, the Eternal Judgment, watching the human solar system appear on his tactical display. He was Valerie-like Ambassador Zethkara, his silver scales polished to a mirror shine for this moment of triumph. In 400 years of service to the Council, he had never led a fleet this large. He intended to make the victory memorable. Report, he commanded. His tactical officer, a young Valor named Senth, studied her console. We have arrived at the designated coordinates. All ships have completed the transition successfully. The human defense fleet is holding position near the third planet. Vethenor examined the enemy formation. 47 ships arranged in a thin defensive line, their weapons powered, but their shields at minimal strength. They looked like insects waiting to be crushed. Pathetic, he said. They do not even attempt to flee. Open a channel. I want them to hear my voice as I destroy them. The communication officer activated the broadcast system. Vessener's words would be heard by every human ship in the system. Attention human vessels. I am Commander Vethener of the Galactic Council Expeditionary Fleet. You have defied the will of the Council and refused to pay the tribute owed by all inferior species. For this crime, you will be destroyed. Your worlds will be burned. Your people will be scattered across the stars as slaves. This is the fate of all who challenge Council authority. He paused, enjoying the moment. If any among you wish to surrender, you may do so now. Those who submit will be granted quick deaths. Those who resist will suffer. Silence stretched across the void. Then a human voice responded, calm and steady despite the overwhelming odds. This is Admiral William Grant of the Terran Defense Fleet. I have heard your terms, Commander. I have a counteroffer.
Vethener laughed.
You are in no position to make offers, human. I offer you the chance to surrender. Power down your weapons, deactivate your drives, and prepare to be boarded. Do this, and your crews will be treated humanely. Refuse, and you will learn why humanity has survived every challenge we have ever faced. The bridge crew of the Eternal Judgment exchanged amused glances. The human admiral was either insane or putting on a brave face for his doomed fleet. Either way, his words changed nothing. You amuse me, Admiral, but your time for games is over. All ships, advance. Destroy the human fleet and proceed to burn their worlds. The Council Armada began to move. 6,000 vessels accelerating toward Earth in a formation designed to overwhelm any defense. They had done this countless times before, crushing species that dared to resist. This would be no different. On the bridge of the Endurance, Admiral Grant watched the enemy approach. His finger rested on a red button that connected directly to Dr. Morgan's bunker beneath the Rocky Mountains. All ships, maintain position, he ordered. Do not engage until my command. Captain Nathan Perry of the Swift spoke through the fleet communication channel. Admiral, the enemy will be in weapons range in 12 minutes. Should we not begin evasive maneuvers? Negative. Hold your position, Captain. Trust the plan. The minutes ticked by with agonizing slowness. Grant watched the distance between the fleets shrink. Watched the enemy weapons lock onto his ships. Watched 6,000 vessels prepare to unleash destruction on everything humanity had built.
Dr. Morgan,
he said into his private channel. Are you ready? In her bunker, Lisa Morgan sat surrounded by screens showing the status of every satellite in her network. 2,000 devices spread across the solar system, all of them waiting for her command. Ready, Admiral. On your order, Grant took a deep breath. He thought of his wife and children on Earth. He thought of all the people counting on this moment. He thought of every soldier who had ever given their life so that others might live. Activate the network. Lisa pressed the button. For a heartbeat, nothing seemed to happen. Then the universe changed. Throughout the Sol system, the hidden satellites came alive. They did not fire weapons or launch missiles. Instead, they projected a field of energy that disrupted the fundamental forces allowing faster-than-light travel to function. The field expanded outward at the speed of light, washing over the Council fleet like an invisible wave. On the Eternal Judgment, alarms began screaming. Commander, our FTL drives have gone offline? Senth shouted, her voice rising with panic. Navigation systems are failing. We cannot calculate a jump back to Council space. Vethener stared at his displays in disbelief. Every ship in his fleet was reporting the same problems. Drives offline, communications jammed. Weapon systems experiencing malfunctions across the board. What is happening? Report, unknown commander. Some kind of interference field. It is affecting every system that relies on faster-than-light physics. We are trapped. The human fleet began to move. 47 ships that had seemed so helpless moments before, now accelerated in perfect coordination, not toward the Council formation, but around it. At the same time, thousands of small objects detached from asteroids throughout the system. Drones, Grant knew, automated weapons platforms that humanity had been secretly positioning for decades. "Engage," the admiral commanded. The drones struck first, swarming the outer edges of the Council fleet in numbers that overwhelmed defensive systems designed to fight organized formations. They were cheap, expendable, and relentless, sacrificing themselves by the hundreds to destroy Council vessels worth 1,000 times their value. Vethener tried to organize his fleet into a defensive formation. But without faster-than-light communications, coordinating 6,000 ships was nearly impossible. Messages traveled at light speed, meaning orders took minutes to reach distant vessels. By the time ships received commands, the tactical situation had already changed. He screamed, "Destroy everything that moves." Council weapons lashed out at the swarms of drones, vaporizing hundreds with each volley. But for every drone destroyed, 10 more seemed to appear. And in the chaos, the human warship struck with surgical precision. Captain Perry brought the Swift into weapons range of a Council cruiser, whose shields had been weakened by drone attacks. His ship was smaller and less powerful, but his crew had trained for years for this exact scenario. "Target their engine section," he ordered. "Full spread, all torpedoes." The Swift's weapons punched through the damaged shields and tore into the Council vessel's propulsion systems. The cruiser went dark, drifting helplessly as the human destroyer moved on to its next target, across the battlefield. Similar scenes played out hundreds of times. The Council fleet had overwhelming firepower but no coordination. The human fleet was outgunned, but fought as a single unit, picking off damaged vessels and avoiding direct confrontation with undamaged enemies. "This is impossible," Vethenar whispered, watching his fleet fall apart around him. "We outnumber them 100 to 1. "Commander, we are receiving surrender signals from multiple vessels," Senth reported. "Our captains are asking for orders. Should we attempt to break out of the system at sublight speed?" Vethenar calculated the distances in his head. Even at maximum sublight velocity, it would take years to reach the edge of the interference field. Years during which the humans would hunt them like prey. Admiral Grant's voice broadcast across all frequencies once more. "Attention, Council fleet. Your faster-than-light capabilities are disabled. Your communications are jammed. You cannot escape, and you cannot call for help. You have 2 options: surrender and live, or continue fighting and die." The battle raged for 6 hours. Some Council ships fought to the last, their crews too proud or too afraid to surrender. Others powered down their weapons and waited to be boarded. By the time the fighting ended, 4,000 vessels had surrendered, and 2,000 had been destroyed. Commander Vethenar stood on his darkened bridge, the Eternal Judgment crippled and surrounded by human vessels. He had never known defeat. He had never imagined it possible. Commander Senth said quietly, "The humans are demanding our surrender." Vethenar looked at the image of Admiral Grant on his damaged screen. The human's face showed no triumph, no satisfaction. Only the weary determination of a soldier who had done what was necessary. "Tell them we surrender," Vethenar said, the words tasting like ash in his mouth. "And ask them how they knew. How they prepared for something that should have been impossible." Grant's answer came moments later, transmitted for the entire surviving fleet to hear. "We prepared because we had to. Because surrender was never an option. Because humanity would rather die fighting than live as slaves." He paused. "Remember that, Commander. Remember what happens when you push a species into a corner with nothing left to lose?" Vethenar would remember. For the rest of his life, he would remember. The news of the disaster reached Station Eternity before the official reports arrived. Traders, spies, and observers had witnessed the impossible from safe distances, and their stories spread like fire through dry grass. The greatest fleet the Council had assembled in 3,000 years had been trapped, defeated, and captured by a species that should have been crushed without effort. In the Council chamber, Ambassador Zeth Kara delivered her report to leaders who struggled to comprehend what they were hearing. The holographic displays behind her showed images of Council warships drifting helplessly in human space, and their crews held as prisoners, their weapons silent. 4,000 vessels have surrendered, she said, her voice hollow with shock. 2,000 were destroyed. Commander Vethaner is in human custody along with nearly 2 million council personnel. High Arbiter Mulvin had not moved since the briefing began. His crystalline form had grown dim, pulsing with colors that indicated deep distress. When he finally spoke, his voice was barely a whisper. How is this possible? How did primitives accomplish what no species in 10,000 years has managed? Observer Talent stepped forward, their pale form drifting across the chamber floor like mist over water. Because you never studied them, Arbiter. You saw a young species and assumed they were weak. You demanded tribute as you always have, following traditions that are older than some stars. The humans did not see your traditions as sacred. They saw them as patterns that could be predicted and exploited. Warlord Crix roared with fury, his armored body shaking the floor as he moved. Then we send more ships. We crush them with numbers until none remain. With what ships? Seth Kara asked quietly. We sent 6,000 of our best vessels. We have perhaps 4,000 more scattered across council space, many of them needed to maintain order among subject races. And the humans have something we did not expect. Change the holographic display to show technical readouts that made little sense to most of the council. Members, they have developed technology that prevents faster than light travel within a massive radius. Any fleet we send will be trapped, just as the first one was. We cannot overwhelm them with numbers if those numbers can never escape. The chamber fell silent as the implications became clear. For 12,000 years, the Council had maintained power through military superiority. Their fleets could strike anywhere in the galaxy within days, crushing rebellions before they could spread. Now, for the first time, they faced an enemy they could not reach. What do the humans want? Mulvin asked. Before Zethkata could answer, a new voice filled the chamber. The holographic systems had been activated remotely. The image of President Daniel Cole appeared on every screen, broadcast from Earth itself. Distinguished members of the Galactic Council, he said, I believe I can answer that question myself. Crix lunged toward the projection, his massive fists passing through the image harmlessly. How dare you address this council? You will be destroyed for this insolence. Will one? Cole remained calm, his tired eyes studying the alien faces before him. You sent 6,000 ships to destroy my species. Those ships now belong to humanity. You have perhaps 4,000 more, spread across a galaxy full of species who have spent millennia waiting for this moment.
At what moment?
Zethkara asked. The moment when someone proved the council could be defeated? Cole paused, letting his words settle over the assembly. I have a proposal for you, one that I suggest you consider carefully. Mulvin straightened slightly, his crystalline form brightening with cautious interest. Speak your proposal, human? I do not want to destroy the council. I do not want revenge or conquest or tribute. I want something far simpler. He looked directly at Mulvon. I want a seat at your table. Not as a subject race, but as an equal partner. I want the tribute system abolished. I want the labor pools closed. I want every species in this galaxy to have the right to determine their own future. Impossible, Crix growled. The tribute system maintains order. Without it, chaos would consume the galaxy. The tribute system maintains your power, Cole corrected. Order can be maintained through cooperation instead of fear. Through mutual benefit instead of extraction. Through treating other species as partners instead of resources. Zethkara studied the human president with new understanding. And if we refuse? Cole smiled, though there was no warmth in his expression. Then I should mention that the technology we use to trap your fleet has already been shared with 17 other species. Species that have been paying tribute to you for generations. Species that are very interested in renegotiating their arrangements now that they know the council can be defeated. The chamber erupted in chaos. Council members shout at each other, ancient alliances fracturing under the weight of fear and uncertainty. For the first time in millennia, the 7 elder races faced a future they could not control. Observer Talent watched the chaos with something that might have been satisfaction. They moved closer to where Zethkara stood apart from the arguing council members. You knew, did you not? Zethkara asked quietly. You knew what the humans were capable of, we suspected, Talenth replied. The Quiet Ones have watched many species rise and fall. We have seen patterns that others miss. The humans fit no pattern we recognize. They are something new, something dangerous, perhaps. Or perhaps something the galaxy needs.
Alan's form flickered thoughtfully.
The Council has maintained stability through fear for 12,000 years. But stability is not the same as progress. How many innovations have been suppressed because subject races were not permitted to develop technology? How many problems have gone unsolved because the Council preferred control to creativity? Zethkara had no answer. She had served the Council her entire life, believing that their way was the only way to maintain order in a galaxy of countless competing species. Now she wondered if that belief had blinded her to other possibilities. The debate continued for hours, but the outcome was never truly in doubt. The Council could not fight an enemy they could not reach, and they could not ignore the threat posed by other species newly armed with human technology. Reluctantly, grudgingly, they accepted Cole's terms. 1 year later, the first human representative took her seat in a reformed Galactic Assembly. Her name was Alina Vasquez, former colony administrator who had helped coordinate the evacuation of New Providence during the dark days before the battle. She was 52 years old, with gray streaks in her dark hair and eyes that had seen both despair and hope. The chamber was different now. More species had been given representation. The tribute system had been replaced with voluntary trade agreements. The labor pools had been closed, their former prisoners returned to their homeworlds. The galaxy was changing, slowly but unmistakably. Alina looked around at the alien faces surrounding her. Some showed hostility, others curiosity, a few something that might have been respect. She thought about everything humanity had risked to reach this moment. The soldiers, who had fought against impossible odds, the scientists who had worked without sleep to make their technology function, the leaders who had chosen defiance when submission would have been easier. Her grandfather had been a farmer in Mexico, a man who had worked the land with his hands and taught her that nothing worth having came without struggle. The universe is vast and cold, he used to say, but wherever humans go, they carry fire with them. Not the fire that destroys, but the fire that warms. The fire that lights the darkness. Alina stood as the assembly recognized her for her first speech. She felt the weight of human history on her shoulders, the hopes of billions watching from Earth and the colony worlds. Distinguished members of the Galactic Assembly, she began. Humanity comes to this chamber not as conquerors, but as partners. Not as masters, but as equals. We have proven that we will fight for our freedom and the freedom of others. Now, we hope to prove that we can build something better than what existed before. She paused, looking at the council members who had once believed her species would be easy to crush. We offer our hands in friendship to all who will take them. We offer our knowledge to all who would share in it. And we offer a promise that humanity will stand beside any species willing to work toward a galaxy, where strength is measured not by the power to destroy, but by the courage to create. The chamber was silent when she finished. Then, slowly, representatives from across the galaxy began to signal their approval. Not all of them, not even most of them at first, but enough. Alina sat down, her heart pounding with emotions she could not name. Beside her, a young Valori delegate leaned closer. That was a good speech, she said. But speeches do not change galaxies. No, Alina agreed. Actions do, and we have a great deal of work ahead of us. She looked out at the vast chamber, at the countless species now bound together in an alliance that would have been unimaginable a year ago. The galaxy would never be the same. Humanity had made sure of that, and somewhere in the void, among the stars that had witnessed the fall of empires and the rise of civilizations, a new light was burning. Small at first, fragile and uncertain, but growing stronger with each passing day, the fire that Elena's grandfather had spoken of. The fire that humanity carried wherever they went. The fire that would light the darkness.